Have you ever seen this historic picture? Who are these people? What are they looking at? I did a little digging up on this picture when I saw it on the internet. Now I'm ready to share my research with you. Let's cut to the chase, guys. This picture shows Soviet officials who are looking at the charred, irregular lump body of a cosmonaut named Vladimir Komarov. It means that this picture shows the evidence of the tragic death of Vladimir Komarov, the man who fell from space. On April 24, 1967, Soviet cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov tried to return to Earth after a mission on the Soyuz I spacecraft. But then his parachute failed to deploy. There are many rumors behind this incident. Let's see the characters of this story. Vladimir Komarov, cosmonaut assigned for a mission on the Soyuz I spacecraft. Yuri Gagarin, backup cosmonaut assigned for a mission on the Soyuz I spacecraft. Leonid Brezhnev, leader of the Soviet Union. Jamie Doran and Piers Bisoni, authors of the book Starman, the definitive biography of Yuri Gagarin. KGB officer Veniamin Ivanovich Ruzayev, who reveals the shocking story behind this tragic accident. The story begins around 1967, when Leonid Brezhnev, leader of the Soviet Union, decided to stage a spectacular mid-space rendezvous between two Soviet spaceships. The plan was to launch a capsule, the Soyuz I, with Komarov inside. The next day, a second vehicle would take off with two additional cosmonauts. The two vehicles would meet, dock, Komarov would crawl from one vehicle to the other, exchanging places with a colleague, and come home in the second ship. It would be, Brezhnev hoped, a Soviet triumph on the 50th anniversary of the Communist Revolution. Brezhnev made it very clear that he wanted this to happen, but there was a problem with his spaceship. According to Starman, Komarov's spacecraft Soyuz I was riddled with 2 or 3 structural problems. As Komarov's backup pilot, Gagarin supposedly argued for the mission to be postponed. He allegedly even wrote a 10-page memo and handed it to Veniamin Ruzayev, a friend in the KGB. But this memo was ignored by the high ranks of the Soviet Union. The designers faced immense political pressure for a new space spectacular, wrote Francis French in the Shadow of the Moon. Soyuz was being rushed into service before all the problems had been ironed out. In Starman's dramatic retelling, Komarov was certain that he would die if he went on the mission, but refused to step down in order to protect Gagarin, the backup pilot who at that point had become his friend. But according to experts, Gagarin was likely a backup in name only. Since he had already achieved the coveted honor of being the first man in space, he was seen as a national treasure of sorts. So at that point in his career, officials would be extremely hesitant to send him on any mission that was risky, but they were apparently willing to risk sending Komarov. On April 23, 1967, Komarov took off on his ill-fated space journey. Over the course of 24 hours, he was able to orbit the Earth 16 times. However, he was unable to complete the end goal of his mission. This was because one of his 2 solar panels that supplied energy for the maneuver failed to deploy. Soviets apparently cancelled the launch of the second module and then instructed Komarov to come back to Earth. But little did Komarov know re-entry would prove fatal. Despite Komarov's skill, he had difficulty handling his spacecraft and apparently had trouble firing his rocket brakes. It took 2 more trips around the world before he was finally able to re-enter. Tragically, when he reached an altitude of 23,000 feet, his parachute that was supposed to deploy failed to do so. As it turned out, the lines of the chute had gotten tangled during Komarov's re-entry troubles. And so, on April 24, 1967, Komarov plummeted to the ground and was killed in a devastating explosion, making him the first known man to die in spaceflight. His final moments are perhaps the most mythologized of all. As Starman claims, Komarov was filled with rage as he died, saying, "The devil's ship, nothing I lay my hands on works properly." And if the book is to be believed, he even went so far as to curse the officials who put him on such a botched spaceship in the first place. Meanwhile, many experts are skeptical of this, including space historian Robert Perlman. "I simply don't see that as being believable," said Perlman. "We have the transcripts from the flight, and that hasn't been reported to date. Komarov was an experienced cosmonaut with training as a tech pilot and Air Force officer. He was trained to deal with high-pressure environments. The idea that he would have lost it is just distasteful." According to the official transcript of Komarov's final moments from the Russian State Archive, one of the last things he said to colleagues on the ground was this: "I feel excellent, everything's in order." Moments later he said, "Thank you for transmitting all of that." Separation occurred. While those were the last official quotes recorded, it's not unreasonable to think that Komarov may have uttered something else after losing connection with people on the ground. It's not clear what that would have been, but surely he must have felt some emotion upon realizing that he was going to die. The real answer died with Komarov, whose charred remains resembled an irregular lump. According to reports, only his heel bone was recognizable. There's no question that Komarov died a horrific death as the man who fell from space. However, like many events that happened in the days of the Soviet Union, much of the story remains shrouded in mystery. While some might be tempted to believe the astonishing tale told in Starman, many experts believe this account is inaccurate, especially since it relies almost entirely on an untrustworthy former KGB officer named Vladimir Komarov. But despite the murkiness of the story, some facts are undeniable. Komarov was a talented pilot. He climbed into a faulty capsule, and he paid the ultimate price during the space race.